Hey everyone, this lesson is going to be over organ system interactions. And our learning objective is we are going to describe the interactions that occur among animal systems. So, in our last lesson, we talked about just the specific organ systems and the organs that make them up. And now we're going to talk about how do those organ systems actually interact with each other. So we know that organ systems are not isolated from each other. All of them have some sort of interaction with another one. They cannot exist simply on their own. They require another system in order to be able to properly complete its own function. Without that, then some of the functions that we talked about in the last video don't necessarily make sense. And that's what we're going to look at specifically today. So we're going to look at a few of these processes that occur in the body that require multiple systems, and then you'll have a chance to be able to practice and see how if you can figure out what body systems are involved in certain body processes. So we're going to start with some regulation. So, for example, breathing. We know that breathing requires the respiratory system and the muscular system. So when you are breathing, you have the respiratory system being involved with which is your mouth, lungs, trachea, and stuff like that. But the muscular system is also involved through your diaphragm. So your diaphragm is just a muscle below your lungs that pushes your lungs up and allows them to push all of the air out. So this requires these two systems working together in order to be able to actually breathe. We also have movement. So this requires both the skeletal system and the muscular system. We know that the skeletal system provides you with that support that you need. And while it can definitely move on its own, it's going to require some sort of muscle in order to be able to move the body around. We also have waste removal. So this one requires the circulatory system and the excretory system. So I kind of mentioned this within our last video, but the excretory system includes things like the kidneys and bladder. So in order for the waste to even get to the kidneys, in order to be able to filter it, the circulatory system has to take the blood and waste products from the entire body, bring it to the kidneys, and the kidneys filter out what they need in order to be able to remove it. All right, the kidneys are only located in one certain spot, so if the circulatory system is not bringing all of that to the kidneys, then that makes it a little bit more difficult. And then the last one we'll look at here is blood oxygen. So this requires the circulatory system and the respiratory system. So the only way that the oxygen that goes into your lungs is going to be able to get to all of the cells in your body is through the circulatory system. So your veins and arteries are here and they go into each lung to enable it to exchange those gases. And then your circulatory system takes those gases and either delivers them to certain parts of the body or takes them back to the lungs. So we'll also look at nutrient absorption. So to properly gather all of the nutrients from your food, your body is going to have to use multiple systems as well. So the first system that we'll look at is the digestive system. So obviously this is the one that breaks down the food that you eat so your body can absorb the proper nutrients. If the food is not broken down, then you won't be able to absorb all of those nutrients that are present within the food that you're actually eating. Now, your muscular system makes up the organs of the digestive system. They contract to break the food down and move it through the tract. In order for you to be able to break down that food that you ate for breakfast, you have to be able to move it down through your esophagus, which is through muscle contractions. Your stomach has to be able to churn and be able to break up the food even further. So the muscular system is vital in that process as well. And then finally, we have the circulatory system. So once those nutrients are taken up in the small intestine, the circulatory system takes those nutrients to the rest of the body. Even if we break all the food down and get those nutrients, if it doesn't go anywhere else in the body, it doesn't necessarily help us out very much. And then the last major interaction we're going to look at is reproduction. So reproduction also involves a number of organ systems. Obviously, it's going to involve the reproductive system. So this includes the reproductive organs and their functions. Now, in the birthing process, this also is important to have the muscular system involved. So, muscle contractions in the uterus are going to help force the child out of the body. And then the last system that we're going to look at that helps here is the endocrine system. So, your reproductive organs use hormones to stimulate the reproductive processes. So these hormones are going to give some sort of feedback loop, which basically means that the hormones are going to cause your muscular system in order to contract even more to force the child out of the body, and then this is just going to go in a loop until the entire process is complete. And so that's all that I have for you today, and keep exploring further.